Welcome to this edition of the Times Techies webinar series. My name is Shilpa Fadnis and I have with me my colleague Sujit John. The two of us will moderate today's discussion. Our discussion today is on Python. A recent survey by the Python Software Foundation and JetBrains showed that most respondents use primary programming language. The respondents said they use Python for a host of things, including artificial intelligence, automation, backend, bioinformatics, blockchain, cybersecurity, and data engineering. In today's webinar, we would like to introduce you to three ladies who love coding in Python. Sukanya Mandal is from Mumbai. She currently works at Capgemini, where she builds data science solutions. She enjoys working on IoT and data sciences and has been speaker on these topics at PyCon India, AWS reInvent 2019, Kubernetes Forum Bangalore, to name a few. She leads various communities like PyLadies Mumbai, PyData Mumbai, AWS User Group Mumbai. This year, she's also led the diversity and inclusion track at PyCon India. Welcome, Sukanya.
Thank you, Shilpa, for this wonderful introduction. Excited to be here as a part of a speaker speaking in this webinar. Thank you so much for inviting.
Thank you. Our next guest is Niharika Krishnan. Niharika currently works as a machine learning engineer at TCS, where she develops NLP-based solutions. As an undergraduate student, she built AutoGlove that leveraged AI to help autistic children lead better lives. With a will to encourage women into technology, she initiated the PyLadies chapter in Chennai and is also a mentor at Learn IT Girl. Welcome, Niharika.
Thanks, Shilpa. Thanks for the introduction.
Thank you, Niharika. Our other guest is Manaswini Das. She's from Bhubaneswar and currently works at Red Hat. She's an active open source user and a contributor since 2017. She has participated both as a mentee and a mentor in various open source programs, initiatives including Google Code In, Girl Script Summer of Code, Red Hat Open Source Contest, and Mentors Without Borders. She's an outreach alumnus, a Processing Foundation Fellow, and an organizer of PyLadies Bhubaneswar. Welcome, Manaswini.
Thanks a lot, Shilpa. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Manaswini. Without much ado, I will hand it over to the PyLadies.
Let me just share my screen. We just have a small presentation. Yeah. Manaswini, is it visible?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Niharika. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in this evening. So we'll be quickly walking you through some careers in Python and the developer ecosystem and some opportunities that is in store in Python. So yeah, the first thing that we come across on the internet is why is Python so popular? And there is a lot of a discussion going around Python versus other languages. So I have curated some points so as to discuss what are the differences. So before getting started, I would like to say the opinions that is here in this webinar is completely our own and is not associated with the companies that we are working with. So this is something that we are doing, community work that we are doing out of our daily work schedule. So yeah, first of all, when it comes to Python being popular, it's because it's very easy to understand and it's very easy to read. It provides a high readability and the entry point is really low. That is, you don't need to have a very experienced developer to get started, I would say. Any person who has experience in any coding language can get started easily with Python. So another thing that I have come across that many people who have not coded in other languages, they find it very easy to get started with Python. So the next thing is presence of a variety of well-maintained libraries and frameworks. So I have come across a lot of libraries. I would say that JavaScript has equal number of great libraries, I would say, but most of the time that gets deprecated at one point of time and they get transferred to better versions of themselves. But I've seen with Python, they are very well maintained. Like the documentation is pretty much detailed. Everyone can get started with it. So yeah, moving on. The next point is interpreted and dynamically typed. That is interpreted in terms of computer language means that it can be the compiler reads it, the interpreter reads it line to line and not one full piece of code one at a time. So next thing is dynamically typed. That is, you don't need to mention the data type of the variable that you're using. You can simply write x is equal to 5 and it will directly know that it is an integer. So whereas in many different languages such as Java and Go, we have to mention the types specifically. But with the recent versions of Java, they are supporting that. They are kind of using this var thing that is dynamic typing. So yeah, dynamic typing is getting popular in this industry. So next thing is rich data structure design as compared to TCL. This is called TCL. TCL is the short form. So yeah, so TCL supports strings as of now, but when it comes to Python, it supports a variety of different data types. So the next thing is it's very easy to maintain. Suppose one Python developer goes out, like suppose he decides to quit the company. You're like, okay, we don't have any developers. So it's nothing of that sort that you have to hire a Python developer of the same experience in order to read that Python code. So yeah, it's very easy to maintain because of its high readability, of course. So one thing I would say when it comes to readability is when it comes to languages, uh, language is something that's used to communicate. So when you're talking about languages, you have to just as you're able to easily read a line of English, you should be easily able to read that line of code in case you know that language. So yeah, that's the ease. That is what high readability means. So the next thing is reliable scalability. When it comes to scalability, there may be a lot of issues when it comes to security, infrastructure, and a lot of this. So Python provides good support of reliable scalability. And then we have fast development speed because it has this object-based, it's an object-oriented programming language that also supports functional programs. So yeah, it's has a very high development speed. So the chart alongside represents the number of Python developer jobs on Indeed from 2017 to 2020. You can see the upsurge in jobs taking place in compared to the other languages. That is, Python is often compared with Java, JavaScript, Perl, Tcl, and all of that. So that's why I mentioned that. So yeah, so since Python is popular, you can you may be wishing to get started with it as early as possible in order to become a Python developer. So one more thing about languages is all the languages that's created taking into account certain use cases or certain problem statements that they were required to solve. So I was recently going through one of the interviews of James Gosling, who is the founder of Java. So he told that when they initially started to design design Java, that is, they wanted to remove the concept of pointers that was there with C and C++ because it was causing a lot of vulnerability and security attacks, and a lot of memory was getting affected as well. So yeah, so they didn't think of Java as a language in particular in the beginning, but they thought of it as an infrastructure, as a design thought, I would say. So yeah, so just choose the language based upon what you want to learn and what you want to build and what problem you want to solve, rather than going through the stats, because it's kind of futile if it doesn't solve your purpose. So the next thing is, why do we use Python for? As Shilpa already mentioned, that is, the applications of Python are huge. We have it in web development, we have it in data analysis, machine learning, artificial intelligence, IoT. We also use it for educational purposes, for DevOps, for building crawlers and scrapers, for testing, all of that. So this is the stats that was given by JetBrains. That is for developers who chose primary Python as one of their two primary languages. So yeah, so 49% used it for web development and 43% used it for data analysis. So it's kind of interchangeable. I think that that changes every year. So sometimes the data analysis people use it more for data analysis, and sometimes less for web development and so on. So yeah, Niharika, move on to the next slide, please. Yeah. Um, Taking into account the popularity of Python, so these are the companies that use Python, and some of the apps, some of the most popular apps are built using Python. The most significant that I can think of at the top of my mind is um, Netflix. There is Spotify. The ones that use Flask include Pinterest and there. I would say that there are a number of frameworks that's available in Python. I would say the most popular being Django, and the next being Flask. So yeah, so a lot of other companies are using Python, and some of the apps, very robust apps, are built using Python. So one more thing that comes with Python is the performance issue. I've heard a lot about it, but yeah, but Python gives support of adding, developing with other language, and cropping it with Python and using it. So yeah, it's Python being the most important example of this. So yeah, if it just depends upon the developer time. So you shouldn't be rewriting everything that you wrote and increase the developer's effort, because that leads to a lot of cost and time and memory wastage as well. So yeah, moving on to the next slide. So I'll be walking you through some careers that we have in Python that you can choose. But again, these are interchangeable. I would say that I have normally come across positions or job descriptions that include Python developer or Django developer. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you are into web development and so on. So you may be required to do a bit of visualizations, do a bit of machine learning and whatever. So they are interchangeable. So the some of the positions that we have come across in various job portals is, first of all, that's web application developer. That is, we see a lot of positions that include front end developer, back end developer. So there are a lot of frameworks, as said earlier. So there's Django if you want to have a full stack development, that is, which starts from UI design to everything from the databases to UI design. So yeah, it covers everything. There is TurboQ, which is again a full stack framework. So again, that we another popular name that we know is Flask, because it's a micro framework. It is used for small scale applications. The next, we have asynchronous frameworks, that is used for handling long events, like long running events, because it gives status as callbacks. You can say, I'm using much technical terms, but you will get a hang of it as soon as you decide to plunge into it. So the next job that I can think of is software engineer. That is, your roles and responsibilities may include analyzing user requirements, writing and testing code, writing good proper documentation for the code that you have written, consulting clients in case you work at a product-based company. I would say sometimes they directly ask the developers to talk to the clients. So I would say that actually reduces a lot of back and forth, and that is something that needs to be there in this industry, and that is something that we should be fostering as design thinkers and as developers. The next thing is develop existing programs, and the skills that you would need to know is frameworks, databases, logical thinking ability. So Python has a lot of packages. You needn't know everything under the sun. um, so you should basically know how to go through the documentation and get started with any package that you can pick out of the blue. So yeah, that can basically help you be acquainted with the code and get started. So the next is databases according to your requirement, whatever you need, be it relational, non-relational, whatever. The next thing is, I would say that every developer or engineer or any other career in any coding language will require you to have problem solving skills and logical thinking abilities. So that is something that's transcending languages and frameworks. So you should be able to work around some existing code and be able to uh, get the problem, like what the problem is, and try to build solutions around it, and how to make it easier for the developer, or how to make it easier for the user to navigate, or something of that sort, whatever your issue may be. So the next thing is DevOps. That is something that is related to a lot of continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous updates. So that helps you to develop, deploy updates and fixes. And the next is analyze and resolve technical issues, and support a large number of user base, concurrent users, I would say. That is something that's taken care of DevOps. So the next thing is design procedures for maintenance and troubleshooting, delivering high level technical support and all of that. The skills that you need is security, scripting, and infrastructure. So again, nowadays the job responsibilities that I come across may include uh, a bit of DevOps and a bit of development, and they are like asking for everything under the same hood, so that's kind of impossible. But yeah, if you have a knowledge, if you have the curiosity to get started with anything, so I would say that go ahead with it, follow your passion, and you can just play around with DevOps, being a software engineer or being an app developer as well. So I'd handle the control to Sukanya.
Thanks, Manaswini. So now, when we are talking about job roles, one of the famous areas in which Python is famous nowadays is dealing with data and handling with data. When it comes to data and its analysis, majorly it is divided into two kinds of analytics. One is descriptive analytics, and the other would be predictive analytics. Within the descriptive, when I say descriptive analytics, it majorly means you have the data, you just need to analyze and find the meaning out of it, find the necessary information out of it. When it comes to predictive analytics, it mostly means you have the data, you discover the pattern out of it, and then you predict future outcomes. So in this slide, we'll be covering some areas of descriptive analytics. We come across roles where there's a need for data analyst. In the data analyst role, you majorly deal with raw data, cleaning of those data, then analyzing those data, performing ETLs, working with database SQL. So here again, Python comes into the picture. If you want to, I mean, you can build ETL with Python. You can also use Python packages like NumPy and Pandas for data cleaning and further exploratory analysis. Business analyst is one such role where you need to deal, again, it's pretty much overlapping with data analyst. Another synonymous role to data analyst is also known as BI engineers, business intelligence engineers. Also, now coming to business analyst, it is one such role wherein you need to deal with business data and analyze on it. So these are some of the job descriptions that you would find when you look for business analyst job role. Now, when you're applying for business analyst, you not necessarily need to know about Python, but having that knowledge would help you deal with the data and also help you in analysis of those data. Data engineer is one popular role nowadays. It has become popular mostly because of the fact that data systems, large scale data systems, needs to be maintained. And when I say large scale data system, it mostly arises out of the need of big data. Nowadays, we are all connected. We are using too many technical gadgets. All of them are producing, generating data. This is where big data comes into picture. And when it comes into picture, you need to maintain and also analyze such scale of data. So in this case, data engineer role is an important one and a very handy one. In this you use tools like Spark, Hadoop, also cloud providers, and some of the roles and responsibilities are mentioned here. So Spark has a Python API. Spark and Python are connected with PySpark. That enables engineers to use Spark infrastructure while coding on Python syntaxes. Hadoop also has enabled the ability to use Python in HDFS and all. So yeah, knowing Python again, and also large scale data systems nowadays, even building data pipelines, we can do it using Python and general Python, not necessarily some libraries. So having a good hand over core Python or understanding the ins and outs of Python would actually help you here, because data engineering is also a mixture of analyzing, like you need to have analytical skills plus general software engineering skills as well. Data scientist is like data engineer mostly prepares those huge chunks of raw data and makes it machine learning ready or predictive analytics ready. So data scientist is a role wherein that comes after a data engineer, wherein you get those processed data from the data engineers, you perform EDA, you understand the patterns, and then you build a feature, and then you do feature engineering, model building, model training, model tuning. All these things are job roles of data scientists. Also, sometimes in some job roles, they do require you to, after you build your model, you predict accuracy. Once it is tested and it's fine-tuned, you might also be required to deploy your model as well. But in large organizations, mostly deployment is also segregated. So these are the few roles that comes under descriptive and a little bit over predictive analytics. More on predictive analytics, I hand it over to Niharika. She'll be talking you through more on predictive analytics.
All right. Thanks, Kanya. So what you saw till now is basically different types of how data, different datas which you can process, descriptive and all of it. And I think one main reason why Python there is the sudden boom in people learning Python is probably because of this field, right? The whole hype over artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, all of it. So just to before getting into what each one does and how they are different, just to give a brief analysis as to what are the different things, right? So artificial intelligence is something very similar to how we are mimicking our brain. So we are able to speak, we're able to talk, we're able to understand each other, see, visualize. That's how our brain processes data. So we want our machines to do the same, right? We build chatbots so that it handles speech to text. We build vision, we have facial recognition, we have language, we have, let's say, text classification. So anything which deals with text related information comes through natural language processing. So if you're a person who's beginning in Python, and if you're a person who's, let's say, interested to learn about how the semantics or anything which is related to text and how you can generate information, generate analysis to text. So I think, yes, that's natural language processing. You have machine learning, deep learning algorithms, which basically help you predict. So you have huge number of data, which the data engineer and the data analyst has analyzed. And you have algorithms, clustering, regression algorithms, which help you predict certain outcomes. So these are the various aspects of artificial intelligence, and they're all, let's say, interrelated. So you can be an AI engineer, you can be a machine learning engineer, you can be an NLP engineer. So it really depends on what you are focusing and where you are, let's say, diving or specializing in. So the whole hype, so in different concepts, so when you have startups, when you have MNCs, so the roles are interrelated, they're interconnected. And so basically, just to give a high level overview of what you need to become a machine learning engineer, what you need if you want to get into natural language processing is, so a machine learning engineer is very similar to a software engineer, just that you are building ML based solutions. So those ML based solutions can depend on what your company is working for, what field they are in. So but what you need to understand is the complete end-to-end machine learning pipeline. So what Sukanya just mentioned, right? So you get the data, you analyze the data, you perform exploratory data analysis, you process it, you make sure the data is ready, and then after that you implement your algorithms, you fine-tune your model. So a machine learning engineer is expected to interact with data analysts, data engineers, build the pipeline, get the data ready, and then, let's say, generate the predictions, make sure the predictions are right. This is what you want, improve on your predictions, improve on the accuracy. So it's the complete end-to-end pipeline which that person needs to understand. And you need to also interact with, let's say, the before the pipeline and after the pipeline to get your machine learning solution deployed. So there's a lot of logical ability, analysis, out-of-box thinking, zoom out, think from an overview of how the entire pipeline works out. And there's a lot of maths and statistics and probability which is involved. So we then come into deep learning engineers. So this is a very niche field in artificial intelligence where you work with neural networks and you analyze complex systems. You work with lots of data, high level of data. And so you basically find applications in medical and healthcare and image analysis. So again, a deep learning engineer can implement algorithms, neural networks on, let's say, text related data or image related data. So it's the algorithms, and you need to apply and you need to learn. So there are packages, there are neural networks which you need to learn how they work, what are the layers. So that is something which and Python definitely has a lot of frameworks and packages which are used. But if you want to get into how you can customize it for your application, you need to learn the math behind it. And I think that's where this is one thing. So it's very easy to teach Python and very easy to, let's say, import packages and learn the documentation. But the calculus and the algebra and the math behind it is something which is everybody's Waterloo, which I think every person strives to learn and improve upon. So all of us are definitely doing that. So these two are the major two areas. And then natural language processing and computer vision, like I explained, is very focused. Natural language processing is completely related to natural language. You need to get into the semantics. You need to get into how your language is structured. Let's say you're building translation. You need to know language A. You need to know everything about language B, and then you need to work on models which help you translate. So you have packages, NLTK, Spacey, open source packages which help you do that. Computer vision again is very focused on just image related use cases. So you have your facial recognition, you have image search. So all these applications are where computer vision, and you use Python packages and architectures like OpenCV and convolutional neural networks, which help you, work on those use cases. So these are all engineering roles, which you generally see in companies where you're working on an application or you're building a solution. And this is and all us engineers, I think, owe it to the research scientists and to the applied scientists professions, because they are the ones who actually build these algorithms, and they are the ones who get into the research of it. They help it, they come out with, so you have research labs and colleges and universities, and so those are the ones. So anybody who works in the research, publishes papers, is what you can get into the research scientist, right? So just to kind of come to a conclusion of what are the Python is not just related to these are some of the really high level roles which one works on. Python is used everywhere, so you do have career opportunities in various fields like cybersec, core Python, IoT, game development, and all of that. So with these in mind, these are the career options. We want to now move on to just the last final segment of the entire women developer ecosystem. And all of us, all of us contribute to the PyLadies community. So we do meet a lot of women students, university students, industry professionals. What are the opportunities for women? There's a lot of gap between opportunities in terms of open source programs or in terms of conferences, communities which one can reach out to. So there's an entire women developer ecosystem in India, which is working towards creating that safe environment for women, and creating an environment and a platform for women to learn, share, contribute, work on projects, and all of that. So with that, I think open source, Manaswini, you take that?
Yeah. Thanks, Niharika. So when it comes to open source, I would say that if you are thinking like what is open source, so it's basically some piece of software for which the code is open and is freely available for you to use or modify. So one question that I've come across as a professional is how do I get started? How do I get an internship, or how do I get experience? So it goes like this: like for internship you need experience, and for experience you need internships, and that's a vicious cycle that you can't get out of. So I would say that you necessarily don't need to wait for a company to hire you. You can simply get started with the existing open source programs that you have, that you can work remotely on your laptop, and get some code contributed or merged into one of the well-known open source softwares. So yeah, so I would say that you can directly go to any platform such as GitHub, or directly search for Python projects on the internet and get started. But I would say the best place to get started with is the open source programs. That is, there are a lot of them. I would say there is Outreachy, there is Google Summer of Code, there is Girl Script Summer of Code, there is Hacktoberfest, there is Linux Kernel Mentorship Program, there is Community Bridge Mentorship Program. So yeah, so with Outreachy, I would like to say this is specifically for underrepresented groups in tech, including the LGBTQ community and the women developer community in India, I would say. And that runs for twice a year, and they really pay handsomely for, and they also pay for any conference that you're going to attend and talk about your work. So as of now, the December cohort uh, is kind of started, so you have to wait for the next cohort that happens around early February. So yeah, have a look at that. So you can go head on to the official websites and have a look at the eligibility requirements and the timelines, so that you can get started in time. So the next thing is for students specifically, that is Google Summer of Code, that runs once a year. You get to work on an open source program, or sorry, on open source software uh, uh, that's for 3 months, and you get paid a stipend as well. The next thing is Girl Script Summer of Code. That's basically a contest. I would say that you get a list of open source projects that you would like to contribute to, and then you get started, and they keep a track of the number of pull requests that's been created by each of the developers, and then they declare winners at the end of 3 months. So next is that went recently is Hacktoberfest. That is throughout the month of October, you can create, you're free to create 4 pull requests for which you will get a swag in return. So that's normally a t-shirt, but this year they have included a plant That is, if you want to not use a t-shirt but instead donate it to someone who is willing to plant a tree in your absence. So yeah, so I think that's a really cool thing towards the planet as well. So next up we have open source makes way for new ideas. So a lot of startups that I've come up with, I have heard them speaking, the developers speaking, that they actually came with the idea of it in hackathons. That is one more opportunity that comes along with open source. That is, you get a platform in which you can collaborate, maybe using GitHub or any other platform that you're comfortable with, and then you create solutions in for problem statements that's very relatable, and you get to develop an app or a service that actually solves the problem and within 24 hours or 36 hours or whatever, without sleeping, of course. So the next thing is opportunity to be a mentor or a maintainer and take the power of community forward. So this is something that is very close to me, I would say, because first of all, I was a mentee in Outreachy, and then I went on to become a mentor in some of the programs that Shilpa already mentioned. So yeah, so that is just like you get something out of open source and you just pass it on. So the next thing is speaking at conferences and events and meeting like-minded people. So I met Niharika and Sukanya on PyCon India 2019. So yeah, so if you are looking at leveraging uh, the most out of conferences, I would say Niharika is the person. She'll be speaking about it in some time. So the next thing is when you look at world-class software that's being used by thousands, such as Linux, may be it any Linux distribution that you're using, be it Fedora, be it Debian, all of them are open source. So when you have a look at the code base, you get to know the best practices that's being carried out in coding. So you get a knowledge of that. So the next thing is, if you're looking for single contribution economic benefits, then I would say GitPay is the platform for you. You create a single pull request, solve a particular problem, then you get paid for it. So the next thing is bug bounty programs. That is, many companies have this program in which you're required to submit a legit bug that is there in the software. Suppose some security vulnerabilities, or maybe some UI issues, or maybe some code getting visible on the user interface. So yeah, even I would say that a lot of us think, like many of us think, that filing bug requests is not a contribution, but it is actually contribution, and some of the companies really pay handsomely for that. So yeah, despite that, I would say if you're not focusing on the economic benefits, but you're just focusing on learning, I would say open source is the platform for you to gain some experience, and who knows, you may crack one of these internships as well. But even if you don't, it's completely fine. Just keep learning, keep improvising, and you'll get it. So I'll hand over the control again to Sukanya.
Thanks, Niharika, once again. Now, talking about communities, as Manaswini said, so we met each other because of community work. So, communities is one such tech communities specifically is one such platform that basically helps us connect with like-minded individuals. Also helps us learn from them. Collaborate with them, grow together, and tons of other opportunities. I also know a couple of people who started as a student who went on giving talks to small meetups and then to larger conferences, and now they're like stars. So yeah, definitely community is one such platform that helps you gain experience, and also the fact that the experience that you gain from these communities are some way or the other beneficial for your future enterprise, or when you go for your job life. In such cases, you do manage, like managing a community gives you managing experiences. And also if you say if you build a website for any other community, you gain that kind of tech experience, and you could also showcase that experience. So talking about communities in India, we have various other communities, both general as well as women focused communities, like women in data science, women in machine learning and data science. So all these communities do exist, but PyLadies is one such community that is focused on specifically the Python open source community. It is definitely an international community wherein we have more than 100 plus chapters across the globe, and it mainly focuses on empowering women or anyone who identify themselves as women to actively participate and become leaders in the Python open source community. It is officially supported by Python Software Foundation as well, and it started in a PyCon US conference back in 2011, which was held at Los Angeles. And since then, it has been gaining momentum. And in India, we have 7+ chapters right now active within the ecosystem. Also, fun fact, you have PyLadies as a package available. So if you just go to pip install PyLadies, you'll get to know about it, everything about PyLadies. And talking about PyLadies India, so this year we started off, I mean, prior to this, we were all distributed in chapters. This year, all the chapter leads came together and we started off PyLadies India, so which is basically an amalgamations of Bangalore, Bhubaneswar, Chennai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Pune chapters. And also, so basically we do held meetups on the mission, which is to promote, educate, and advance a diverse Python community. We do host normal talks, meetup sessions, discussion groups, tech talks, hands-on workshops, also mentorship programs. And every year at PyCon India, we meet at PyLadies lunch. And also we do host a couple of other events like speed mentoring and one-on-one mentoring or lightning talks. This year, since PyCon India was online, so we had a major diversity and inclusion initiative majorly contributed by PyLadies India. And this laid on, I mean, this was the first time that D&I, diversity and inclusion, became a track within the PyCon India conference. So these are one such benefits, and also these are one such experiences that you get to get if you are a part of such communities. And also, if you have any questions, you can reach out to anyone you feel. Basically, communities, these kind of communities gives you a safe space to open up, because when we are students or just freshers into the job, we do hesitate to ask questions. So this kind of communities gives you that safe space. You can be open and ask questions, get your mentors. You can also be a mentee. You can ask someone to mentor you. And this is basically a platform. And at the end of the day, it becomes a family, right? So you can reach out to us. We do have the social media handles here. Moving on, so I think Niharika will be talking to you about tech conferences and grants. Over to you, Niharika.
Thanks, Sukanya. Yeah. So as a student, so I think you've seen different, open source programs and communities which you can leverage. But I personally, when I was in undergrad, I never knew that there were opportunities and conferences where one can attend, one can speak. So this is just a brief. The last 2 slides are just going to talk about what opportunities you as a woman have in India, being in tech. So one is you can attend conferences, you can explore, expand your knowledge, find a job. So on a personal experience, a conference helps you get obviously introduced to a community like PyLadies, land an internship, get referrals, get an idea for your project because you have the who and who of Python who's attending such conferences. So it'll also help you take a break of your regular job, and then it helps you broaden your perspective and broaden your thought process. So there are 2 ways. One, you can attend, you can speak. If you're interested in speaking, then yes, you need to submit a talk proposal. You need to figure out a topic which you want to present. You need to know your topic in and out, because you will expect questions, and you need to be application oriented. So what Shilpa mentioned in the beginning of the introduction. So I had worked on a project like Glove, and it was pretty much kind of an application oriented thing, and it was new because it was leveraging Python and AI to help autistic children. So with this idea in mind, I took it up to conferences like PyCon India, PyCon Canada, and since it was a little different, it was a little out of box, I believe it got accepted, and that's where. So I think as a speaker, you need to come up with topics which are really different, rather than just saying that, okay, I know Python, or Python does this. How have you used Python? How have you built solutions which have helped you, let's say, automate the mundane things in day-to-day life? So these are the things which will help the audience also listen to your talk. So there are multiple conferences which happen all over the globe. Then we come to the next part, which is grants. Obviously, in India, you can attend from city to city, but when you're attending conferences in US or Canada or certain things, so it's beneficial. It's always helpful when you can get some sort of financial aid. So be on the lookout if you're interested in conferences. Be on the lookout. All they need is you have a commitment to contribute to the community. They look at why do you need certain grants and what are you going to do, what are you going to make out of the conference which you're attending, how are you going to give back to the community. So if you can come up with a beautiful statement of purpose which talks about how you use Python and how you are giving back to the community, I think you will definitely get this. The last one is mentorship programs and scholarships. I would have loved it if I came across this slide when I was in my undergrad, because there are so many opportunities for undergraduate female students, especially, be it one-on-one mentorship or be it receiving support or guidance. So you can apply. So Manaswini covered the programs which are open source mentorship programs. So this slide consists of programs which are, let's say you want to build a data science project or you want to build a web application and you need help. Whom do you reach out to? Okay, so you can, at the university level, you will reach out to your seniors, you will reach out to your colleagues. But there are programs like Learn IT Girl and Good Tech and all of these where you have people who are experienced in that field and it runs for a period and you can ask your doubts. It becomes a very friendly approach for you to learn tech as well as also get introduced to certain other opportunities. So do explore mentorship programs. All it takes is one Google search, but this is where you can start with. The next one is the scholarships. So again, there are multiple scholarships for women specifically, although there are many scholarships for the entire community. So scholarships, there are different types. It can be scholarships to pursue your master's degree, to pursue your doctorate. You have scholarships to fund your undergraduate fees. You have scholarships where they can help you with your project or mentorship or research guidance. These are some of the basic, Adobe Women in Tech or Nutanix, Women Tech Makers Scholarships. So these are all scholarships which you definitely must, let's say, apply. And from personal experience, the tip is start early. Definitely stick to your deadlines because they do not extend deadlines. And you need to write essay. You need to contribute to your Python community here. And you would also definitely, let's say, review your essays, and in the end, it will lead to, let's say, an internship or a PPO offer or a funding or research guidance. So to basically bring everything in a nutshell, what we started is how we use Python, what are the different career opportunities in Python, and especially for the women developer community out there, these are the various avenues which you can explore as an undergrad student, as an industry professional. And with that, I think we come to the end of this. I think it kind of extended a little bit, Sujit and Shilpa. So we're open to questions, and if you would like to reach out to us after this thing, please feel free to ping us on our handles. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, Shilpa, you're muted, huh? 45 minutes almost done. Okay. Okay, that's okay. But you covered everything. So right. Good. Very comprehensive. Shilpa, you want to start?
Yeah. So this question is.
But before that, I mean, just tell the audience if there are questions. The Facebook chat box comment section is there. Please send in your questions if you have any. Shilpa, go on.
Yeah. So if you can talk about how Python earned its place in mainstream programming language, right? If you can talk about what are some of the trends and what was the tipping point that really pushed Python up the programming ladder, right?
Okay. Personally, I feel, so like you said, Python has been there throughout. It's been there for many, many years. But I think the whole hype of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the outcome, and especially when you look at, the kind of different libraries which Python uses and how you can, which has made people, kind of get along and get involved in these fields, and the benefits of artificial intelligence. So I think I personally feel, maybe the others would disagree with me, but I personally feel it's the whole hype and the ease of using Python in the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, which has really brought in Python into the limelight.
Right. Adding on to what Niharika just said about the hype or the ease of use, basically, if you see, Python existed for quite some time, and it is a general purpose programming language. So prior to this, it was used in software engineering and also web development a lot, and security, infrastructure, all these areas. But again, talking about the hype when it comes to data science. See, all when Python existed, it already formed a large community base, and since it's free and also easy to use, people can easily read the code base and understand what's going on in the code, right? So initially, when data science was coming into the picture, about applications, then R was existing, and R was the only statistical language. And then slowly and steadily, because of the community and because of the community contribution, we got many other packages and libraries that performed equivalently with R. And those Python developers who were coding in Python for long term, why would they switch to another programming language? So they just continued here. So that's another reason. So yeah, that's how it is growing, and I hope to see it will grow in the similar fashion.
Okay.
Where did you all learn? I mean, you're all kind of practically fresh graduates, barely a year since your graduation and all that, a little more. Did you learn Python in college or after that, or what? I mean, you're also good already.
For me, it was self-taught. We
Yeah.
did not have any Python courses such during undergrads, but now I believe colleges are looping in, including Python as a programming language. So I learned Python because I was working, my main area is like I work with data science. So I was working in that area, and then slowly and steadily I got introduced to Python, and that's how I explored and learned on it, and then moved on to Python roles.
But you knew, before that, you knew Java, is it? What did you learn in college?
No, I mean, not Java entirely, but in college we had C, C++, the basic ones that is usually taught in colleges. But then, yeah, that's how I got into Python.
And from C, C+ to learn Python wasn't all that difficult, is it?
No. It's, I mean, if you look at the Python code, you still can understand because it is somewhat similar to English, speaking English language. And it's just a few here and there coding syntax. You just need to understand the general coding paradigm or the programming paradigm, and then you can catch it up.
I think the crux is if you understand like how basic things, like when you have loops, you have how looping statements, how they work. So these are all certain common things which are there across programming languages. Across, you have if statements. So these are all really basic programming things. So the logic of how they are implemented remains the same. It's just the syntax will differ, the word will differ, the way you do your function call differs, the way you define a function maybe differs. Right, but the concept remains the same. And like you said, so I think initially in my college, Python was there as an elective. It was not there as a mandatory course. So I had a very unique thing where I had to learn Python because of an internship interview, which I had to clear. So I went on a 2-week crash course Python course in my second year when Python was actually offered in third year. So that also gave a heads up. So it's like either it's a project or it's an internship.
2 weeks you got a hang of it.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
So 2 weeks, huh?
2 weeks I got the hang of it to clear the interview, and that internship kind of brought me into the entire thing of data science. And since, like you said, we are all just graduates, we keep learning, and every week, every month, every few months there are new technologies. So we learn along with the contributions.
So you're saying it's not difficult if a new language now emerges, which is becoming popular and all that, it's not difficult to shift?
Depends on, let's say,
what purpose you're solving.
Exactly, what purpose you're solving, right? So if it's C, C++, they're all same programming language. Let's say you're learning a front-end language, Angular or React or something. That's completely different. Okay, so. And the main thing, Python, yeah, you have a lot of use cases, so I think it's easier. So I think now CBSE has also introduced Python in school.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we had C, Java when we were in school, but now Python is there. So I think that proves it.
How good are you all in maths? Is math important? How important is math?
Very important.
Very important. Yeah.
I think.
Would recommend everybody should learn math in case they want to learn Python and all that.
I would recommend everybody who's watching this and who's in college, please focus at your math courses, which are there in your first and second year, because it's very easy to just invoke scikit-learn or invoke a Python package and use it and get the solution. But for you to understand, that's what something I learned here in the industry. For you to understand what really happens behind the scene, you need math.
Okay. Shilpa, there's some questions that are coming in from the audience. Do you have something, Shilpa?
Not yet.
I have one here from, one second, from Ayushi Singh. Ayushi Singh, how important is a certification for a Python developer? Does it make sense to pay for an online certification course for CV reasons?
Okay, I would like to take that up. I would say that personally, I find I haven't done any certificate course. So I was also self-taught, and back in 2017 when I started learning, I started initially with Java, with Android programming, building small apps and trying to understand. So that's when I shifted to Python for visualizations, like normal, suppose forest cover district wise in our state or something of that sort. So I just got some data from Kaggle and I played around it and got some visualizations like some pie charts or some bar charts just to represent the data, just for them to know. So I would say that personally, I don't feel paying for certification courses is a mandatory thing. That's what people do just to feel that they are in control, but nothing of that sort occurs. As good as I would say that the lessons that life teaches, it's like way more than what we learn as students in college or any other. It's just like any other undergraduate course. So there are a lot of companies who are hiring despite you not having any university experience.
They'll always do some kind of a testing for you, actual practical test
Yes,
on a Python
exactly.
program.
Yeah,
Is it?
exactly.
Okay, that's how they hire. So
Yeah.
the certification does not really matter.
Yeah.
They will, if you do put, whoever has asked that question, if you do put that certification, if you have done, and on your resume, be ready to answer questions as to how you have used the knowledge of that certification and worked on projects. So they will say, okay, you worked on the certification. What have you done with it? What have
How did you apply it in practice?
Apply it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, that's
exactly
what happens. Yeah.
Manaswini says. So projects have more impact than certification.
Oh.
There's this question from Shilpi Arora. Which IDE is recommended for Python coding?
Okay.
So so I primarily used Visual Studio Code for a long time, but then when I heard from most of my friends, I haven't used PyCharm yet, but yeah, PyCharm is the most used editor as of now. Otherwise, you can directly go with uh, Jupyter Notebook or something of that sort. Any other website-based IDE that you like. I think Jupyter is the most prominent one.
Jupyter Notebook. Yeah. So it's personal preference, honestly. So you have plenty. So it depends on, you have Sublime editors, just normal text editors.
Normal Notepad++ will also do.
will also
Yeah.
work. So it really depends. Yeah. But otherwise, I think Visual Studio is the way.
But if you are a beginner and you want to see the output right away in front of your eyes, just go for a web-based IDE, Jupyter Notebook. It will give you the output right there. If you are of an intermediate coding skills, then go for Visual Studio Code. Like if you are specifically doing software engineering and all those things, so go for Visual Studio Code, PyCharm. All these are good editors as IDEs as well. For data science, since we need understanding of the data and also the pattern, so we mostly go for an web-based IDE wherein we get the visualization output immediately. So yeah, again, it depends on your purpose.
I would say that IDs actually make the job easier. But as a beginner, I would say that use Notepad so that you will understand what is happening, because with IDs now you will get the errors then and there. So you write a single line of code, you will get the error there. But as a beginner, that doesn't help because you don't understand errors at that time, right? So that's what it does. Like once you get a hang of that language, using IDE makes that thing very easier. Like for Java, we have IntelliJ IDE. I think that's the best. Even I was using Visual Studio Code for Java before this, and it was such a pain. But when I shifted to IntelliJ, I actually understood why IntelliJ is so much popular in the community.
I have this question from Afreen Sania. What would you advise students who are looking to bridge the gap between Python taught in classroom versus the real deal?
Work on projects.
Yes.
I think
Projects.
I will
Fingers
totally
on.
agree to
Yes.
what Niharika said.
Yeah. So it
Work on
depends on the
projects. So
field.
how do you work on projects? How do you
Okay.
decide, okay, this is the project I'm going to work on?
So again, unless and until you explore, you will not know. So
Explore what?
explore the different fields. Like we just spoke to you about the different career paths, right? So let's say you build a web-based project or you build a data science project, okay? Or you, so unless and until you actually learn and develop a project, see whether you like what you're doing.
On your own, or do you get into
So
an
yeah, so again, so this brings it. So if you want to, if you are self-taught, you want to do it on your own, you can do it. If you think you need help, you can reach out to communities, what we discussed about. So, but I think there are a lot of tutorials out there in YouTube and in Kaggle. You have code already there, you have the input, you have the output. So if you think that you do not know what I need to do, you can look at build solutions when you're starting to see what is being done. But the best way to bridge the gap is college teaches you theory, you need to work, implement it in practical.
But in college itself, will there be some projects that people can work on that somebody else is doing that you can join or something like that?
Yes, I think so. When I learned Python programming, so we did have a cumulative capstone project which we had to do. So that's from my college, I'm saying. So depends. So if there is a requirement, if it's a mandatory requirement, you will definitely work on it. Even if it's not, every university has a lot of clubs, technical clubs, which voluntarily work on projects, irrespective of the course and the curriculum. So probably joining those clubs and interacting and working will help you bridge that gap.
In addition to what Niharika said, I would say that most easy way to get started with a project is just identify a problem that's happening in your day-to-day life. Suppose you're not getting your phone. Suppose you're not getting your phone, you have kept it somewhere and you have to think about it. Suppose you're not getting your specs. Yeah, that is something that we get, these problems, that something that we face. So you can use some sort of automation around it, or maybe just build just insert some chips that you can be able to detect it when it's not there, so that you don't sleep on it or just sit on it. So yeah, just identify a problem that's there in your surroundings and try to find a solution to it. I think that will help you come up with an idea to build, and then you can look at resources that can help you build it.
No, you're right. I think it's difficult to overemphasize this point about participating in applying it. I remember one of the teachers in one of these colleges. He was a very senior executive in one of the top semiconductor companies. He said exactly this. I mean, he said about girls. He said one of the problems with the girls, I mean, even though they are very bright and all of that, they don't apply things. The boys are more in the whole process of applying it to things. You guys are exceptions, obviously, probably. I mean, can I generalize that? Is that women tend to be less application oriented?
I don't
I
think so.
wouldn't.
I
So
think that
You don't
it
think so?
I don't think
completely
so.
depends on the individual level. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you cannot say that all humans are bad. Like,
No, I agree.
we cannot generalize that. In that case, I would say that it completely depends upon the individual's curiosity and how much curious you are. Whether you are curious to understand everything from the lower level to the higher level, or you just want to things. You just want to scratch the surface. Yeah.
So I think that's where we communities play a role.
Play
So
a
there
role.
are,
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
because maybe this thought processes, they are in, they have this inhibition in front of the male counterpart. But when you actually bring in 10 women developers together, right, there is nothing that can beat the kind of ideas and the brainstorming and the projects which one comes out with. Yeah.
Great.
Right. We have this question from Yamuna Kant. What do you want to tell a student who thinks PCM subject in 12th standard curriculum is not of much use in the current tech world where coding trumps everything else?
I don't think that. Sukanya, you would like to say?
Sure. So see, in your class 10th and 12th, I mean 11, 12, all these things, this is your learning journey, right? So learn everything you can. When you learn PCM, you gain like look at it this way, you still gain the domain knowledge. You understand what's happening in that domain, right? Coding is I mean, when the way researchers look at it is coding is a tool that helps me build solutions to the domain I'm working in. right? So yes, definitely in today's tech scenario, anyone can come into the IT industry with some exposure to programming languages, but don't neglect your fundamental studies. Those will help you grow, actually. I mean, once your fundamental is strong, it really helps you grow. I mean, that's my personal experience as well. So I would like to say that, yes.
I think we can definitely remove the M part of the PCM, because we've seen
Right.
maths is definitely, you know, a big thing in tech. It is used everywhere. Algorithms, even if it's not data science and not AI. Physics and chemistry. Just to add on to what Sukanya was saying, you're going to implement tech solutions in domains, be it retail industry, be it aviation industry. Aviation, again, you will need to know mechanical, physics, all of it. So you might be solving a small use case or one use case in that industry. And if you do not understand what that industry is or what is it, it's basically like subject matter expert. You do not need to be a subject matter expert, but you need to know what solution you're building. So I think that's why physics, chemistry do not neglect.
Can become
So you
very
can, so I would like to add to that. Let us suppose you don't like chemical formulas, you don't like organic chemistry, but you want to build such a structure in order to help you memorize the formulas and the structure, the organic structure. Can build some system that can generate this. I know one of my friends did it, so it is possible. So he works at Gojek. So in case, so it's again what Sukanya said. It's like just gaining knowledge around different domains that will help you come across problems that you face in regular lives, and then you can come across projects or try and make things around it and make it easier for you.
Yeah. I have this question from Amita Hari. What do you think needs to be done to improve the women developer ecosystem apart from what is being done already? Apart from all the things that all of you are doing, apart from that and the companies and all that, is there anything that you have to suggest in terms of what can
Right. To be honest, one such experience is, I mean, out of experience, take initiation. I mean, self-ownership is something that will lead you somewhere. All these are opportunities available for you. Even companies do, I mean, nowadays companies are doing women recruitment drive, right? And also they do have special programs within the organizations to empower women. We do have communities which are also extended to, I mean, you as a student can also get access to those communities, interact with professionals in your industry or in the areas that you would like. But until and unless you take the initiation from your side or say that I'm going to do this, sometimes, I mean, no one will come and pull you up from there and say, or give you a push, say that you need to do this, right? So take initiative and definitely opportunities will unfold in front of you. This is my personal experience again.
Any suggestions for companies to do something more than what they're already doing?
I think nowadays companies have become more liberal and they are doing a lot for women employees, and even work from home policies if need be and all those things. So yes, again, there I find one of the situations where we or as women don't speak up, feel intimidated, but do speak up, ask for it, do like discuss things, and things will actually fall into place. If you keep it to yourself, you will be the one to suffer out of the situation and no one else will. So again, that's my suggestion. Do open up.
Shilpa, questions?
Yeah, this question is from Ashwini. If I have to practice Python for data science, from where can I find cases or projects?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So one thing what you can do is, I think Kaggle is your go-to place. I think everybody who works as in the field of data science would have definitely gone there. So you have competitions, you have do-it-yourself projects. Kaggle, right? So it's basically like it has data science competitions, it has challenges, and it has data. Basically, any data science solution, you first require data. So you have, so it will give you an exposure as to, you can start with, on top of my head, you can start with Iris data sets. You can start with Boston housing pricing data sets. So these are all very beginner level projects where you have data and you pre-process it, and then you can recommend what is the price and all of that. So Titanic data set is another example, whether using ML, whether you will whether the person will survive or not. So these are all really beginner level projects. So you will find these projects in Kaggle. But apart from that, there are a lot of do-it-yourself projects. You have GitHub is definitely one place where you can look at solutions and you can get started.
Yes,
Yeah.
alongside
Sukanya, you would like to add?
Yeah, just one more point there. So there are also various portals like Analytics Vidya, which teaches you code from scratch and also explains you what each of the chunk of code is doing. DataCamp offers you some free courses wherein you can go and learn basics of like how can you implement Python in data science, right? And also they do have this inbuilt editor wherein you don't even need to build your own system or use an IDE. Go to DataCamp, log into it, and you can code there as well, understand the concepts. And then Kaggle, as Niharika said, is of course an applied field. It teaches you more than data science, I would say. It teaches you, of course, to implement a solution in data science. Beyond that, it also gives you the confidence to do competitive coding, which is also an essential skill nowadays. And tech companies do hire you based on those capabilities, because nowadays the hiring scenario has changed a bit. So in the first round they do a coding round, right? So if you keep practicing, you gain speed and you gain that resiliency, and you can probably crack those rounds. So yeah, do and of course Google. So Google would be your friend. Just Google anything, it'll give you any suggestions. And GitHub is one such place where people do post lots of projects, complete, incomplete, but still worthy. If you are starting as a fresher or someone new to the field, have a look at the code. You will understand how the code flows. It teaches you a lot there also. Yeah.
So Red Hat and Capgemini and all, when they hired TCS, I don't know, hired you, what were they looking for? What did they ask you?
So,
what do you think got you into those companies?
Mine was a very specific, so I'm not sure if a lot of people know. So TCS introduced this hiring for the first time in 2019. It is called digital hiring. So because they wanted to be a part of the digital technology trend, so they came in. I think probably this TCS digital hiring was the first company which came to my campus, and they were specifically looking for people with prior experience in digital technologies like AI, machine learning, big data, cloud, right? So generally, TCS is known to do mass recruitment. But for us, for this hiring, you obviously have a better, and it comes with a lot of role designation, monetary benefits, along with, there were a very few, let's say, people in 2 digits who were selected for this hiring. The process, how it went is, again, you have to definitely overcome your logical ability, your coding questions, competitive coding questions, which is your first round. And then the second round was your interview, where they predominantly focused on prior experience in digital technologies. So this kind of this hiring, helped you come into the company and land up in digital roles. So that's how I ended up working in the field of.
What was your experience? What was your prior experience?
Right. So I have done internships. So prior experience would definitely be machine learning internships in startups, internships, projects. My final year, the Auti Glove, which I was talking about, was my final year project, which went ahead. So these are the things which I think really helped me get that role. And also, it is not direct entry. I had to do an internship with the company 6 months before I actually joined full time, and so that also helped you land a role which is not just software development. It helped me land into a digital role. So that's how I think companies, since the fact that a company like TCS has brought in this digital hiring initiative, kind of is a proof that digital technologies are being considered.
Okay.
So I would like to add to that. So mine wasn't a I would say campus level hiring. So I had to go through several interviews before I actually got hired as an intern. As Niharika said, so I was also a 6 month intern in Red Hat. So I would say the skills that they're looking for is data structures. That's the first round that you have to get through. Not in Python, again, not in Python, because Python has several packages. You have to understand the crux. That is, you have to either, and that is possible if you use languages such as C, Java or C++ for competitive programming. So that's another thing. So next thing is little bit knowledge about what projects that you have done. Sometimes people write false stuff, like they haven't done a project but they actually wrote it. So that's where you get caught. They actually ask about the nitty-gritty details about the project and how you came up with particular solution to that particular problem that you faced. They ask about all the problems that you faced and how you came across such a solution. So yeah, as Niharika said, I would like to reiterate again, problem solving and logical thinking is going to get you to places. So yeah, so that's like the basic skill that you're looking for. And also curiosity. I think that the recruiters at Red Hat, the ones that they interviewed, that who interviewed me, they were kind of looking for how curious I am, and uh, how I can actually lead to one solution for a particular problem. So yeah.
Absolutely. So those are the lines along which recent recruiting scenario is basing. So data structures, as Manaswini said, and problem solving is something. As a fresher, all you're required to do is, like, how would you approach a problem? That is something very essential, and that is something a fresher is evaluated on. So yeah, definitely. All these are important points.
Okay. Shilpa, done?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Sukanya, Manaswini, and Niharika. Thank you so much for giving us that comprehensive overview on Python, the landscape, ecosystem, how all of you are contributing to the community and enriching it. So more power to all of you and wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Really interesting. Very interesting.
Thanks for having us. It's been a really nice
Our pleasure.
opportunity
Entirely our
talking
pleasure.
to you. Yeah.
Thanks, Shilpa. Thanks, Sujit.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.